Welcome to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM. I'm your show host, Shamilo Chandal. Supervisor of Elections and Elections Office have started their awareness campaign on Know Your Election. So we're going to talk about this. And with me, I have the Supervisor of Elections, Mohammed Sineem. Welcome to the show.
Hola.
And Acting Communications Director from Supervisor of Elections Office, Edwin Nand. Both of you are a very familiar face, and I'm sure my audience is very, very happy to hear from you about elections. So my first question is, when can the election be called, or when is election?
The election can be called between the 6th of April and the 20th of November, 20th of November this year. And just to make it clear before any further questions come on this topic, the election date will be announced once the Prime Minister has requested the President to dissolve Parliament, and the announcements will be made most probably from the Prime Minister's office.
So what's this significant about April 6th?
Well, Shami, under the Constitution, it's required that the election be held at least 3 years and 6 months after the first sitting of Parliament. Under the current dates, the first sitting of Parliament in 2014 was the 6th of October. So calculating from that date, it brings us to the 6th of April as being the earliest date when the election can be announced under the electoral laws that exist. So
yeah.
we've counted forward from the 6th of October, which brings us to April 6th being the date that we are working with.
So April 6th is less than a month away. Is it fair, Saneem, on you and your team to be prepared to conduct 2018 elections?
Well, we've had 3.5 years to work on it. And based on our planning, we are planning to be election ready in the first week of April. And we will be on standby mode, waiting for an announcement of the date, as well as other preparatory requirements that are going to follow. But the Fijian Elections Office has been preparing, and we intend to be ready in the first week of April. The 1st of April was our target.
Okay. So what's the update on the political parties and independent parties? How are they preparing to contest the 2018 general election?
Well, I think in terms of preparations for the general election, in 2016, we called a press conference in which we announced to the whole country that effectively 2 years to go from the first date an election can be held. And we also at the same time reminded all potential candidates that the 2 years for their residency requirement most probably kicks in from that date. So we are hoping that based on the information we've been publishing, we've also been, last year in March, we also released the first ever Fiji National Polling Venue Directory. And we've been working on updating that directory since then. And this December and January, again, we published the new set of revised set of directories so that people are able to find their venues. So on the side of information to prepare, there has been more than abundant information for political parties, potential candidates to prepare. And on the side of the electoral management body, we have been preparing in the background on a lot of these things. A couple of things that I think is worth mentioning also is that for the first time, Fiji has had ongoing voter registration post an election. In 2015, some of the politicians and political parties did not see any value in this, but I'm sure when it comes to the general election this year, they will find true value of this exercise.
Well, why are you making this comment that the political parties didn't see any value in this?
We had a few parties that went out to criticize the process in terms of the ongoing voter registration.
But this will work in their benefit, because come election, there'll be voters who will be, voting for various political parties.
Well, we hope that the political parties will understand that that's exactly the intention here. That's why we have ongoing voter registration. If I may quickly go back to your earlier question about political party preparations, it's worth pointing out that the Fijian Elections Office has developed 2 handbooks which are directly related to political parties. One being the Candidates Handbook, which has been released and delivered to all registered political parties, and the other being the Polling Agents Handbook. There you can see that it's actually with the Supervisor of Elections. These have been provided to political parties to help them prepare for the 2018 general election. It basically lists out all the responsibilities, the rights and expectations of candidates, and the rights and responsibilities of polling agents who will be at polling venues on election day itself. So these are the two publications that the Fijian Elections Office has put out, and we've had discussions and consultations with the political parties on these before they were prepared. Now that is specifically for the political parties, but for the voters, we have just a week ago launched our newest booklet, which is the election information booklet. This contains all the information that any voter and every voter needs going into the election. It covers everything from registration to the different types of voting, the different methods of voting, which is postal, pre-poll, and election day, right on to the counting, which will happen at the polling venues, as well as the result announcement. So we have 400,000 of these printed, and we've got them in 6 languages. We've got them in English, Itoke, Hindi, Chinese, Rotuman, and Banaban.
So basically, you have covered everyone, all Fijians in this.
We have covered
Yes.
as many different demographics of the voter base as possible.
We'll discuss at length about this this book, which is the election information book, which was launched recently. We were talking about independent candidates and political parties. In case of campaigns, misleading voters and incorrect information, what standards do you have? What will you do if you come across campaigns which is misleading voters?
Maybe I should do this one.
Yes,
The first point is that I think that it is difficult for people to fool voters in Fiji. There may be instances where you have, say, 50% luck, but they will find out eventually what the truth is. And this is where, as the Fijian Elections Office, as the election management body, we will ensure that election-related information is always conveyed to voters with the highest levels of accuracy. You will note in today's Fiji Sun, the Electoral Commission has published its response to an article on the Saturday's Fiji Sun written by Unity Fiji, in which there were heaps of misstatements and inaccurate observations about the election. So when it comes to misinformation, we will immediately try and rectify this. We operate our own channels as well, such as the Facebook channel, and we are able to issue clarifications on that.
Yes. Sunny, we mentioned that the Unity Fiji in Fiji Sun had the article, which has a lot of misinformation. It still happens, despite the fact that Elections Office has released these books, Candidates Handbook and Polling Agents Handbook.
Yes, I mean, there are lots of
They're not reading it.
information. There is a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
And people who try and put out misinformation forget that actually voters also have access to these booklets.
Yes.
And a lot of voters actually do read these. So I think instead of focusing on that, my advice would be that people who are issuing public statements on elections should actually go through these booklets so that they know what the process is. And feel free to make your own statements on it, as long as you have correctly stated the process.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to look more into the Know Your Elections campaign awareness and when can political parties start doing their campaigns and etc. You're most welcome to call us on Speak Your Mind during the show. Welcome back on Speak Your Mind. My guests are Supervisor of Elections Mohammed Saneem and the Acting Director for Communication, Edwin Nand. So tell me, is it going to be electronic voting, machine counting, or electronic voting? And there has been much controversy around this as well.
Shami, I can confirm to you that in the 2018 general election, nothing has changed from how it was conducted in the 2014 general election. So if I can go to the voting process, voters will still come to the polling venue.
Right.
They will present their voter card, Once they gain entry into the polling venue, they will be issued a ballot paper. They will go to the voting screen, the cardboard voting screen, where they will mark their ballot paper in secret, and then they will be inked. Their finger will be inked. They will place the ballot paper in the ballot box, and they will exit the venue. Same as it was in 2014, there is no use of any electronic voting machine or electronic counting, as the information has been going around, especially in social media. And that's one of the points we are also making in our awareness campaigns, that voters who have voted previously need not worry. They are now, if I can say, veterans in how voting
Absolutely,
is,
because
is
they've
to
already
be
done
conducted.
it. So
They've
this will
done
be
it
a
once.
rehearsal. The first one would have been a rehearsal,
Yes.
Yes.
right?
There is nothing new. There are no surprises.
Actually, I think we can show the model to ensure that Fijians are able to understand the polling station environment.
Yes.
What we did is we have created 3D model of a polling station that every awareness team carries with them.
Okay.
And wherever they go, to whichever community they go, they are able to demonstrate what the environment inside a polling station is. And it frankly, it's very simple setup. There will be 5 staff or so. You will enter the polling station. We will give you the voter instruction booklet. This is the booklet that has got the numbers, photos, and names of all the candidates that you can vote for. Once you receive a voter instruction booklet, you can then go to the first table where you will present your voter card or an ID. They will mark you off the voters list. You will sign against your name. Then you go and you receive yourself a ballot paper. With the ballot paper, you proceed to the voting screen. At the voting screen, it's you and your ballot paper. Mark the number of the candidate you wish to vote for. You can look it up in the voter instruction booklet. After you have marked your ballot paper, fold it at the cardboard voting screen, right? Fold your ballot paper, go to the inking, the person who can ink your finger. Once you have got your finger inked, you go and drop your ballot paper in the ballot box. Either you leave the voter instruction booklet at the designated rubbish bin, or you can take it out with you. That is the process. As Edwin has said, there is no voting machine or counting machine as such. There is no such thing.
So there will be some senior citizens too. This is easy. Obviously, with a voting or electronic system, some people would have had the fear how to go about doing it. Even people who like educated, etc. But there will be some senior citizens who will need some guidance there to follow this process. Would you have your staff to assist them?
Our presiding officer, who is the person in charge of the polling venue, has instructions, firstly, that senior citizens, expectant women, and people with disabilities will have priority in the queue. If there is we don't expect a long queue, but if there are people waiting in line and these 3 categories of voters happen to turn up, they will be given priority. They will automatically be escorted into the venue and assisted with the entire process. Only to the extent that they need assistance. If the voter says, if an expectant mother comes in and says, look, thank you for helping me get to the front of the line, but I'll take it from here, we will not be personally or individually involved with that voter, because that is their right to go through the process on their own. If someone comes in and asks for assistance, it's very important that they let us know, that let our staff know that they need assistance. That's when the presiding officer comes in and helps at whatever stage is necessary. Now, I can also, I should point out that if a person needs assistance with marking their ballot paper, the presiding officer, under instructions from the supervisor of elections, is authorized to assist in that instance. However, when that happens, the assistant presiding officer will have to be present at every stage as a witness to ensure and to attest that the presiding officer is following the wishes of the voter.
Okay. So another question comes to mind is can political party agents also accompany the ballot box to the polling venue before counting starts?
So we want to clarify your question first. Once a ballot box has been sealed inside a polling station on election day, it will remain inside the polling station until counting has concluded and all the record books and the protocols of results are completed. It cannot be taken outside a polling station except to assist a voter to vote. So in case a person on wheelchair comes and the person cannot go inside the polling station, the presiding officer is allowed to bring the ballot box outside to that person. But no, you can't. The ballot box doesn't roam around. You are on election day. This is for election day. On election day, if election took place at, say, Bau Community Hall, counting will be done for that polling station in Bau Community Hall, and after that, counting has concluded, results are written down, transmitted. That is the final result for that area. There is no second count or third count or final count. There is no such thing.
So will the results then be entered electronically, or how will the counting be done?
So what happens is, once counting is completed at one particular venue, the presiding officer will call our National Results Center. They will identify themselves. We have internal procedures for that. And they will transmit the provisional results via mobile phone to the results center, which will be entered as provisional results. These remain provisional until the final result is announced. Now, what happens is, after they have called in the result, there is a copy, a pink slip of the protocol of results, which is pasted outside the venue. So if I may go back another step, the protocol of results is the document which the presiding officer will fill, which has all the information of how many votes were cast, which candidate number received how many votes, and the total tally. And this is reconciled with the number of ballot papers which were issued to that particular polling venue, and it also includes the number of, if any, invalid votes and what have you. That's pasted outside the venue. So any voter for Bau Community Polling Station can go outside, look at the pink slip and say, okay, this looks okay, I voted for that number, it seems to be there. And they can then also take a photo of that and use that pink slip to verify the results which are being released provisionally from our National Results Center. So if a voter has a copy of the pink slip, they can match the pink slip to the results that we are releasing.
Okay.
Now, if I may go another step further, the provisional results remain provisional until another copy of the protocol of results is sent under police escort from the polling venue to the National Results Center. Once it is the actual copy of the protocol of results is received at the National Results Center, it is then entered as a final result. But the release of the final results is subject to the supervisor of elections.
All right. We'll take another break, and when we come back, we'd like to know how long would it be a one-day voting? When will we know about the results, etc.? So do stay with us on Speak Your Mind. This is Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, and Saneem and Edwin, we have some callers on Speak Your Mind. Welcome on the show. Can I have your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Kula, and I'm calling in from Suva.
Yes, please go ahead with your question.
Hi, I just had a question in regards to the campaigning period.
Campaigning period, yes?
Yeah, just to do with the billboards that we see in Suva. Does that count as campaigning or by Fiji First Party?
Okay, thank you very much. So we've seen a lot of blue big billboards. Caller would like to know, is it campaigning by Fiji First? What is this billboard for?
I think you should ask Fiji First.
It's nothing to do with the elections office.
We're not putting up those billboards.
Okay.
And I think the question should be best answered by Fiji First.
Thank you very much, Saneem. Now, going back to our previous question, will it be a one-day voting? Would it be over a weekend, or would it be during school holidays?
That depends on the date, if it's on a weekend or a school holiday. But that's determined by the date that's announced. However, it will be a one-day voting.
Yeah.
And
Are we looking at weekends? Because weekdays, a lot of people are working and etc. Then you need
Shami,
schools
the
to...
Prime Minister decides the date. So I think that question can be best answered by the Prime Minister. What we are here to tell you is that if it's an election date that's announced,
Mhm.
the week before that election date will be pre-polling in 589 locations around the country.
Mm.
These are the remote areas where we have less connectivity and accessibility,
Mhm.
and we will be conducting pre-poll in those areas 1 week before the election date, and then once election date is then after that we will run elections on election day for 1,539 polling
So
stations.
it's going to be a one-day voting,
One day
right?
voting, and whatever day it may be, whatever date it may be, it will be a public holiday.
Okay, so it has to be a weekend or a public holiday. It can't be during weekdays because
Well, you
people
only
do.
have weekdays and weekends. So
Absolutely.
it has
Yeah,
to be
right.
on a
It will
So-
depend. Let's not confuse ourselves.
Yeah.
As I said, it depends on the date the Prime Minister selects for elections.
Yeah, like you said, it could be over a long weekend or weekend, right? Now, another thing is when will the results be announced? How long will it take?
Provisional results for the election will be announced on election night. And we will continue announcing provisional results until the next morning at 7 a.m. we will stop. Provisional results are supposed to are designed to inform voters of the progress of the count as well as the outcome of the count that has concluded until that time. After 7 a.m., we will stop announcing provisional results because we will by then start receiving protocols of results, which is the signed result sheet from each polling station where count has finished. We will then enter that result again into the result system so that we can announce the final result. Now, what's the difference? Provisional result is found in results, and it is found from the presiding officer to the result center, right? The final result is actually the result sheet that is signed and it is submitted to the result center and it is entered in the system. So
how accurate is the provisional result to the final result? Is it like very accurate results, provisional results?
yes, it is supposed to be absolutely accurate,
Yes.
right? But because it's a found in result,
Okay.
there may be some discrepancies, but the key word is it's found in, it's provisional. It's supposed to give an indication of the results as to what side it's leaning, etc., etc. The result, which is the final result, may be available after 4 days, which is through direct data entry of the result sheets from the polling stations itself. Now, just 2 more seconds on this one.
Sure.
Political parties are entitled at the result center. They will be given a photocopy, direct photocopy of the result sheet that comes from the polling station. They will be given a direct photocopy. Once the result is entered into our result system, the result system will automatically print out the results that have been entered for that polling station, and that will also be given to the political party. So, if you get the result in photocopy and then the one entered in the system, you look at both and you compare. And once we guarantee that it will be the same, political parties have that assurance because the result system printed out the results from that system. So there is consistency in the result, right? And at the same time, they can verify. So, Shami, this is where it comes to responsibilities. Political parties need to be present at the result center to do this. We will not wait for a political party who decides to turn up on the 5th day before we release the results. As we get the result copy, as we get the final result, we will photocopy, place it in dips for the political parties. The results that is printed by our result management system will be placed in those dips in another dip on the same table for the parties. It is their responsibility to have people present 24 hours, 3 days to ensure that they verify. If they don't have anybody there, we will not wait for them. We have our own audit mechanisms that we will follow, but it is their responsibility. Because why I'm saying this is because we often hear parties saying, oh, we don't know what the result will be when it's entered and all this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you come and you verify. If you are there, that's how you can do it.
Did you have the same provision in the first election too?
Yes,
What
and
was
very few
the-
parties were present. Only Sodelpa was there full time, and they verified this information that was being put on the result system. Other parties didn't come, and then I think later on they started saying, "Oh, we don't know." I think they just didn't turn up. So, but this time, I'm saying it on air. It's an invitation to political parties to come at the result center and be present as we are entering the results in the result management system, so that they can themselves verify for their comfort on the results that are being entered.
We're talking about voting at the moment, and definitely to be able to vote, you have to register.
Yes.
And you are going around with your Know Your Elections campaign, and there has been a lot of books, right? How many books has been distributed?
Director?
We have so far to date distributed 89,000 books, and this is in a matter of technically 5 days that we've distributed 89,000. That's inclusive of face-to-face distribution that the supervisor and our entire team did between the Suvarnasori corridor in the Western Division and the Northern Division. We basically went out into the streets and we handed voters copies of the election information booklet. I have to say that there is a lot of interest in this booklet.
How would you know? How would you know there has been interest? Are people coming back with feedbacks?
People are actually coming up to us and asking us for copies. We had a target of distributing 500 booklets in my team on Saturday. In a matter of 4 hours, we ended up distributing 1,400 booklets in less than 4 hours. So that just goes to show the amount of interest that people have in the elections, and the fact that they want to learn about the electoral process. And that's the whole idea behind this booklet. We encourage people to get copies of the booklet, to read it, and to understand how the electoral process works.
Yeah. So with this, you have distributed a lot of copies, right? Face to face and by
our
other
awareness
means.
teams, which are going into the
Yes.
communities conducting the Know Your Election campaign, are handing a copy also to each voter that they interact with, whether it's a
Definitely.
new voter who comes in to register or if somebody comes in to change their details. People are also saying that my family member could not come for the awareness session, but they're a voter. Can I have a copy for them? So they take 2, some take 3.
Have
And
people come back with feedbacks after reading the book? How would you gauge the success of this
I think it's too
information?
early.
it's a bit early. We
It's a
want
bit
to give
early.
people time to absorb
Okay.
the information, to understand it, and then
But if someone wants to know more about this after reading this book, if there is any clarification, what do they do? How
It's
do they
right at the
contact
back
it?
of the book on how you can contact us.
Mhm.
The voter can use any of these platforms. I mean, on the Facebook, on our FEO Facebook page, we've had quite a bit of interaction based on this book, and I think it's important that a person first reads the whole book, because some of the things that are generally floating around as misinformation can easily be cured by someone going through the book.
Okay.
I think the most important thing I would say from this book is the very first page, which is that on election day, a voter comes prepared to vote. Firstly, they must know where they're voting.
Yeah.
Secondly, they must bring at least an umbrella to be ready for the weather. It may be sunny, but still have an umbrella. Water bottle, in case it's a longer line than we expect. At least you have water for sustenance. And you must know your polling venue.
Yeah. And how will people find out about the polling venue? Is there a text number?
they can send an SMS to 1500. It's a free service on all networks.
Which is not activated now.
Already
It's active.
from
It's
February
first-
1st.
So if
Feb
if I send a text message to that, will I know my polling venue?
You have to send your
You want to
voter
try now?
card.
Do you have your voter number?
Yeah, I don't have my voter number, but maybe
Well,
one of you would like to try, and
Sure.
our listeners
we can do a quick
like
demo,
to
but,
try a demo,
but
just to
while we
see-
are doing that,
Yes.
if I can just briefly explain how the service works.
Okay, and then
So-
after this we'll take a break. Yes.
So what the supervisor is doing right now is entering my voter card number
Okay.
into an SMS box, which will be sent to 1500.
Mhm.
Once that is done, and he will hit send
Right.
Just hit send and it's already here.
in a
What does
second.
it say?
So I now know where Edwin Nunn will be voting. It's at CPE 15024, Dalai Nasole Hart Hall.
Okay.
And
That's actually correct.
So
Yes.
and that's correct, right? You're
That's
verifying that. Good.
So
Thank you so
it
much.
It does a couple of things.
Mm.
Firstly, if you don't know where you will be voting, you now know where you will be
found
voting.
it out, yeah.
Secondly, if you already know where you're voting, but you're not sure,
You can always
make
find
sure.
out. We'll take.
Thirdly,
We'll.
just very quickly, while
Yeah.
we're still talking about the SMS service, if you want to change your voting details, first you have to know whether it's correct or not. You check, you send your voter card to 1500. If it is not correct, you now know that you need to update your
Okay.
polling venue details.
Thank you. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we are going to look at how compulsory is it for younger voters to vote. Welcome back on Speak Your Mind. Supervisor of Elections, Mohammed Saneem, is here with me, and the Acting Director of Communications, Eric.
Yeah,
Right?
that's correct. Yes.
Edwin. We are talking about upcoming election. So registering to vote in the election is not compulsory. How will you convince the students about the importance of registering to vote in 2018 elections? Because the census has revealed that there are a lot of younger voters, right?
Actually, if I can tell you a story about last week, we held a launch at the Maris Brothers High School in Suva for this very Know Your Election campaign, where we are also doing voter registration for first-time voters. And the response that we received from the students was amazing. It was amazing. They were inquisitive. They were asking questions. They were asking knowledgeable questions. And they showed a real interest in the electoral process. And we had a high number of first-time registration of students who will be voting in 2018. So it's not, I don't think for us it's a matter of getting students interested. I think we've come to a stage from 2014 to now where students are interested and they do take an interest in becoming part of the national discussion. So what is incumbent on the Fijian Elections Office is being able to educate and inform these first-time voters.
You just mentioned, Edwin, that the students who will be able to vote, the 18 plus age, you said that it's not necessary to convince them. Is this based on the number of registration by the younger people, or are you just saying because you met them and you talked to them? What does the stats reveal about the number of students who have registered so far?
Well, we are still getting numbers in from all our divisions, but it's not so much about the number of students who we are registering as statistics, but it's more about gauging the sentiments of these first-time voters and their level of interest in being involved in the electoral process. Now, I was making the point that we need to be able to educate and inform them. What we have done is the Fijian Elections Office has developed a Year 10 school curriculum. It's part of the social science subject. And what happens is Year 10 students are taken through the electoral process. They are taught about how the elections are conducted. And then at the end of the exercise, they themselves conduct mock elections.
And this only happens during elections time, or
No,
does it happen
it's
every
part of
year?
the
It's part of the
curriculum.
curriculum.
It's part of their curriculum. They have been provided with material, with manuals and textbooks, and teachers have their teaching guides as well on how to educate students about elections. So going back to your question about how do we get these students interested, we are starting from an even younger age to get them involved in knowing how an election works, in what is involved in an election, so that when they turn 18, it doesn't come as a surprise to them. They don't walk into the polling venue for the first time and be nervous, have sweaty palms, and be lack confidence about what to do. They've already been through it once. They've seen what a polling venue is like. They themselves have done the work of presiding officers, of ballot box guards, of venue queue controllers. So they will see the person, then they will know, oh, you know, in school in Year 10, I was the venue queue controller, so this guy must be the venue queue controller. He's the presiding officer.
Thanks, Edwin. Salim, how important is it for those who are eligible to vote, especially the younger ones, because census has revealed that there is a lot of younger people, right, who could, who definitely will it will affect the results, right, of elections. How important is it for everyone to vote, and the younger ones too?
The best answer to that is that there's an old adage in the world of elections. It says decisions are made by those who turn up. So if someone wants to participate in the democratic process, someone wants to be a responsible citizen an active citizen, the first step is to register, because only registered people can vote. So yes, you've registered, you have your card, you are now armed with responsibility and power. And you can exercise that power when you come to the polling station and you cast your vote.
Have you come across challenges in a place that someone would say, ki, my community or certain place or people are not allowed to, they will not register or they will not vote?
Okay, we don't have such a situation in Fiji, but a few weeks ago there was some reporting in some media organization about a particular community saying that we will not vote. Now, the Director of Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission very properly actually he addressed that issue. But my response to that is that in making such a statement, were the women consulted, or were the new eligible voters consulted, students, were they consulted? I'm assuming this is one head of this place who turns up and says, right, everybody decide today that we will not vote. But that's not how it works. This is elections, of course.
How can then people exercise the authority and power, even if they want to, but if the community head says no?
For this incident, what the supervisor then did was he came out and he put a statement, the Fijian Elections Office put out a statement that even if there is a community that says that they will not vote, the supervisor of elections will still establish a polling venue near that community or as close as possible to give the opportunity to the voters to come and vote, even if they have said that they are not going to.
It is also an offense to obstruct a person from voting. So if this kind of situation appears, we will not hesitate to apply the law to remove any obstructions for voters.
So you'll have observers there who will be observing all these things if in case a situation does arise.
No,
to report.
There are officials there,
yes,
FEO staff, who can of course report this to us. Observers is a different group of people. These are people who would be monitoring the election.
This will be international observers, right?
Yes, international observers.
Right.
Yes.
You mentioned about the media reporting, and definitely there has been a lot of interaction on social media. How will social media remarks be handled during elections or during registration period?
Very simple. The Fijian Elections Office has its own social media page. We have over 80,000 people who have subscribed to our page, and as we progress into the nearing stages of the election, we anticipate that a high number of people will want to know what our position is on a statement that has been made. Now, there are some notorious pages, and these pages are now losing credibility, extremely, I should say, to an extent where people just go there for fun. And they look at all these people and say, those bunch of jokers. And of course they are. And people know them. And then, I mean, today you will see a lot of posts about me because of what I have just said. Now, this is becoming more and more obvious in Fiji that people are having a joke at things that are coming out on these pages. And we all know whom they are aligned to. It's very obvious from their posts. A lot of them are fake people. Fake profile. So what will happen is that, yes, in fact, Shami, I wanted to give you a small observation.
Please go ahead.
Some time ago, when did we see this? This was during the media workshop, right?
Yes.
In the media workshop, I made a comment to say that fake profiles cannot vote. So there was a particular page on Facebook in which one fake profile published my story on what I had said, and then the next 10 comments were from other fake profiles. And there probably maybe one person commenting on his own. So some psychological issues there as well with this person. But the more interesting bit was fake profiles were at each other's throats on things that I said about a fake profile not being able to vote. I mean, do the math in that case. And how many of them are there? Maybe 100, maybe 200. But it's exactly, and it's becoming big of a big joke. Actually.
I think people are now realizing, we've got very wise people in Fiji. They're now realizing that this social media pages, it doesn't hold any water. So people are moving back to credible. Yes,
it's very obvious that these pages, one, lack substance, and two, lack evidence.
I add one more to that. They're always very aggressive. wait, they use freedom of expression as their key basis for making those statements, but they're very quick to moderate freely expressed views from people who don't agree with them.
Absolutely, and the vulgarity in comments as well. If they were to call a media like ours, a radio station and television, would those fake profiles have the guts to call and make such comments?
Hang on, they're fake, so
Absolutely.
That's the very point. They do not have
Absolutely.
the ability to come out and speak publicly because
Yes.
they know they don't have any ground to stand on.
No.
Yes.
We'll take a break. When we come back, I think it's going to be our last segment. We're going to talk more about voter registration awareness campaign.
we'll move away from the fake profiles
Definitely.
to the reality.
Yeah, to the reality. Welcome back on Speak Your Mind. This is our last segment with Supervisor of Elections, Mohammed Saneem, and Acting Director Communications, Edwin Nunn. Now, before I talk about this book, I'd like to know, when can political parties start campaigning? We see pockets of meetings happening everywhere and some misleading information, etc. But when can political parties actually start their proper campaigning?
Okay, speaking from the basis of the Electoral Act, campaign period is counted under the Electoral Act following the announcement of the date of an election. That is an official campaign period. That is when the provisions of the Electoral Act on campaign apply. And that is probably an answer to the billboard question as well,
Right.
in case someone was asking for clarification. Until then, there is no restrictions or regulations that prohibit any person from pushing out political messages.
Okay.
And since 2014, we haven't actually stopped. Political parties have continued to push out campaign messages in one form or the other, but it has been happening, and there is no restriction in this mechanism.
Does supervisor of elections come into play or action to monitor political campaigns so that
Only when the official
information?
campaign period starts,
Mhm.
then we effectively monitor campaign advertisements and other campaign-related activities. But until that is done, we basically don't have any role to play. And there are other laws in place in case there is misinformation or slander and all these other things, and people are at liberty to utilize those laws.
So, election information booklet. Why is it important? Why is this campaign so important? Would you like to talk about it again?
Director?
Well, for us at the Fijian Elections Office, we've taken the entire electoral process, a magnanimous exercise, the largest national exercise in any country
In peacetime.
in peacetime, and we've put it into a book of no more than 40 pages. It's a period of over a month that the election period or the writ period,
44 days.
44 days that it lasts, but we've compressed it in such a way that people do not have to be lawyers. They don't necessarily have had to read the law, apart from the supervisor himself.
In fact, I find it very interesting because you have got a lot of pictures, a lot
Infographics,
of
yes, correct.
information, graphics, and all these things, which makes it very easy to understand.
See, Shami, an election is not a complex process. That's what we're trying to show from this booklet.
Yeah.
It is portrayed as a very difficult exercise and it's so difficult, etc., etc. But it's actually very simple. And this is what voters need to be made to be comfortable about. The Election Commission has approved the theme for this year as the 2018 generation to be a platform for Fijians to express their will with confidence, security, and freedom. All of that will start from people knowing about the process and not having to read electoral laws, which has got over 160 provisions, and then the constitution itself and all the other laws. Basically, we've summarized what's related to a voter in the voter's instruction booklet. Candidates have their own booklet. Polling agents, these are candidates' agents. They have their own booklet. Media has been given a booklet. So we've expanded the knowledge in simple terms to the relevant sector of society for them to use. So
How much time do
Yeah.
you need before elections to be able to complete your election information or know your elections campaign?
deadline, 6th April?
Correct.
We'd like every voter in this country.
So which means
be
after
ready.
6th April, there won't be this
No, no, no.
campaign?
That book will be available
Yes.
up until election day.
Yes.
Okay.
Right up to the polling venue. Outside the polling venue, if you want to bring the book with you, you may bring it with you.
Yes.
You can have it for as long as you want. You can keep it for the following elections as well. The beauty about this book is it's not just
Generic
related
book,
to the 2018 general election. It's
A
for
general,
a lifetime.
right?
It's
Yes.
for a lifetime until such time in the future if there may be any changes to the electoral processes
Maybe
or
minor
electoral laws.
amendments. that
Minor
we'll
amendments.
let them know, yeah.
But this book can be carried on after you have voted. You know, if you have a family member who's turning 18, you gift them your election information booklet to
Okay.
say, look,
So-
this is what I used to learn about the last election. I now hand it to you. The responsibility goes to you.
Yeah. My last question is Fijian Elections Office ready for 2018 elections? If not, then how much time do you need before elections to get ready?
Let's, if I may, turn that question around and relate it to the voters. Supervisor, what is the aspiration of the Fijian Elections Office as far as voters are concerned and voter preparation is concerned for the 2018 general election?
No, my
Yeah.
question is to
Let's-
the.
let's-
My question is not to
Okay,
the
I'll answer
audience.
both your
Yes,
questions.
first, yeah.
Fijian Elections Office prepares itself to be ready for election on the 1st of April, 2018.
Okay.
We want the entire voter population of this country to be prepared for a general election 6th of April 2018.
Okay,
That
good,
is our
answers
challenge.
my question. So we'll be on a watch out to know an announcement by the Prime Minister as to when will elections take place, and we'd like to have you on our shows again. Thank you very much,
Thank
gentlemen,
you.
for being
Thank
on
you,
this show. I'll join you again next Tuesday on Speak Your Mind.